Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alan with another broadcast of the Morning Digest coming this Saturday morning to you. As always, I appreciate you guys joining me. You can help the channel grow by liking, subscribing, hitting the bell for notifications, but most importantly, I ask that you guys share the content. A link for donations can be found in the description below, paypal.me/morningdigest. Now, I want to talk about an issue that I've been seeing going on for a while now, and it pertains to society at large. Now, for a long time, we've seen a bunch of movies talking about dystopian societies, books written about it, George Orwell's 1984, and it seems as though it's a future that none of us want to be involved with. It's an outcome that we want to avoid, correct? Now, what we have to realize is we're already there, my friends, and you've been lulled into a false sense of security. It's just like when you're down in Louisiana and you're about to make some frog legs and you toss that frog into some cold water and you turn the freaking flame on underneath them. The frog gets acclimated to the temperature of that water until it reaches a boil, to the point where the frog doesn't know that it's in any danger until it's literally cooked alive. We as human beings have been subjected to the same exact thing, and this is an agenda that has been going on since the dawn of human civilization. As I discussed in my last video, the powers that ought not be, the 9 families that have held power for all of human civilization, right, have put in place a series of protocols, a series of moral ethics, whatever you want to call it, right? It's the credo they live their life by. And in turn, part of that is showing us one extreme of something, i.e. V for Vendetta, right? While at the same time implementing policies that are eventually going to bring us to that state, right? Now this is where the whole catch-up is. You are so busy concentrating on the worst-case scenario, right? The final outcome, that you don't realize you've already been placed inside of that pot of cold water. They just haven't turned the temperature on yet. Once they turn the water on, right, and try to bring it up to a boil, it's too late for you. The cover to that pan's already on, and you're trapped inside their system. And what's even more hilarious is we willingly got into that pot of water. It's not like they went out and captured us and put us in there. And then to top it all off, we're so busy concentrating on the final outcome that we don't realize we're already there. For comparison, let's look at George Orwell's 1984 and compare it to modern day society. If you're telling me we're not living in a dystopian society already, you're out of your mind, but the only reason you don't think that we are is because it doesn't match that level of fiction that you see on TV. Right, at least not to your own 2 eyes, when in fact, it's far worse. It's far worse because we don't realize that we're slaves, right? We don't realize that we're the frogs in this boiling water yet. And what's scary is, with all of these events that are going on, people are starting to wake up to it. Now the problem is, once you're in that pot of boiling water and they already have the cover on, you can't fight the enemy anymore. All you can do is argue amongst yourselves while you boil alive, and that's exactly where they want us. Look at V for Vendetta. It is a perfect example of what is possible when you control all information. And we have to look at V for Vendetta as an example here, because what happened in the beginning of that movie is happening right now in front of our eyes. We see countries shutting borders down left and right. And on top of that, the information that's being shared on the TV is highly controlled and manipulated. For example, in the beginning of V for Vendetta, they show a sequence of events that show civil war erupting inside of the United States, right? They say that the citizens have gone to complete catastrophe, civil wars raging, etc., etc., etc. However, There's no way for the citizens of Britain to know this. All of their borders are shut down. They're not allowed to travel anywhere. They have no independent media, no independent journalism. They're being spied on left and right. Everything that they've ever done, right, is known. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. And if you look at society that we live in today, the same exact thing's already happening. They've shut down all of our borders, right? They're talking about making us carry around digital certificates to prove that we're COVID-free, etc., etc., etc. Right? They created a catastrophe, and now we, as the boiling frogs, are begging for our murderers and our kidnappers to save us, which is exactly what they wanted. But at the end of the day, they know they're not taking the cover off of that pot. They know that all they're going to do is crank the heat up even more. The thing is, in V for Vendetta, they never explicitly tell you that the United States isn't at war. They never tell you that that was all their government lying to them. We're seeing the same thing happen inside of the United States right now. MSNBC goes out and shows a video of hospitals being overrun with patients, etc., etc., etc. That video came from Italy. It was never inside of the United States. But how are we as American citizens supposed to know that? Especially when the redaction is put up the next day and it's at the bottom of a freaking internet article that nobody's ever going to see because it's behind a paywall for most part. And for two, they're never going to put that on TV for you and I to see. Right? The big takeaway and what V for Vendetta is trying to tell you is once the government has complete control over all information, you know nothing. And that is right where we're at right now. There's anecdotal stories coming out, and I'm pretty well sure that they're true because I have insider information coming from the hospitals right now that tell me straight up the numbers that are coming out of the hospitals for insurance purposes related to COVID-19 do not, and I repeat, they do not match the numbers coming out through the media. I know somebody that works in insurance that is dealing with all of the intubations happening at a major hospital in Western Massachusetts. There is no way that the numbers that they are seeing are accurate compared to the numbers that the state is putting out. And the numbers that this person are seeing is far, far lower. There's something else you have to realize that's going on right now. Doctors all over the country last week received an email. And inside of this email, they were instructed to list anybody that dies of a symptom that is related to COVID-19 to be put down as a COVID-19 mortality. Which means if you go into the hospital with regular pneumonia, right, and you deteriorate before they get a test back for COVID-19 or they even test you, for example, and you die, you're being listed as a COVID-19 death. In New York City, right, if an ambulance shows up to your house right now and they can't resuscitate you on site, right, they're leaving the body there. They're not doing any tests to it, and they're telling you to call a mortician, and they're going to come take the body or whatever, right? But what they're doing is they're figuring out the cause of death, and let's say the cause of death is pneumonia, right? A lot of old people get pneumonia when they get the flu. If they die of pneumonia, they're not running an autopsy, right? They're not doing any of that. They're figuring out what the symptom was that that person had. And if it's one of the symptoms related to COVID-19, that's now a COVID patient that died. Which means these numbers are extremely inflated because anybody that has the influenza and dies of it, which is in the hundreds of thousands of people, right, are now going to be listed as a COVID-19 patient. Why in the hell are they doing this, right? But we're only being told what they want us to hear, and most Americans are believing it. And then on top of that, they're begging the government, who they've been criticizing for the past 3 years for being fascists, to literally shut down our country, take away all of our gun rights, take away our right to assemble, take away our right to religious freedoms, take away habeas corpus, etc., etc., etc. You just called this guy a fascist for the last 3 years, and now you're begging him to take away every single one of your rights. It's because you can feel that water getting warmer, and you're begging your kidnappers and your murderers for help. I'm not saying that everything going on behind the scenes right now is to boil us alive and lull us into a false sense of security in order to bring us into a dystopian society. What I'm saying is we are already in a dystopian society, and there is definitely a game going on behind the scenes to either A, bring us out of that dystopia and back to what America was and should be back in the 1950s, or bring us into a deeper and darker dystopia, one that matches what you've seen on TV and what you've seen in Hollywood. That is their goal. That is their end game. And they've gone to great lengths to make you guys be accustomed to what the worst possible dystopia could be. So you don't realize that you're already living in one right now, and you are literally begging your captives to bring you deeper into a new one. God bless you guys and have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.